Welcome to the squad. It's Icewater and Puma. It was a solid. Like, comment, subscribe, and share our episodes right here on YouTube channel Chocolate 108.1 WYDL. Let's talk about the NBA playoffs. And then there were two, OKC and Indiana. Indiana outlast the New York Knicks last night. And I was watching the game up until the third quarter when the Knicks was just making so many mistakes. I was like, you know what? They're giving up this game right now. And I said it last week. Tibbs was really outcoached in this series. And I was thinking about it this morning when I woke up. The Knicks could have won this series and won this 4-1, but they let go of two games, the first two games. Those are the two games they needed that could have won this series. They played good enough to win until that third and fourth quarter, and they were doing it again last night. And I'm like, okay, I've seen this before. Let me go watch women's softball. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But your thoughts on the Eastern and Western Conference series, and then you got OKC and Indiana. Let's talk about who we think will win that one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to start out with the Eastern Conference Finals. As you mentioned, the Knicks had opportunities and they kind of fell backwards on them, not pushing all the way through. The big thing for the Knicks, like any other teams, the supporting cast, I just don't think really stepped up when it mattered. You had in and out different team members stepping up from the standpoint of we knew what Jalen Brunson was going to do, right? You knew what the big cat, Towns was going to do for the most part. But then you have guys like Josh Hart, right? That was kind of, off and on. Big OG as well. It was more scattered type performances by these guys. And when you're facing a an opponent like Indiana that's locked and loaded with a bunch of players. So you go, okay, we expect Halliburton to be the guy. You saw pure consistency in Siakam stepping up, right? You saw Toppin, your favorite player that they traded, he came on strong. Our other guy, Mathurin, had a game as well. He had 18 points one game. So somehow or another, Indiana found ways to get contributions from guys that normally don't produce on a regular basis. And it's simple math. When you have a team that has more players that contribute along with their stars, and you have another team that have a couple guys and maybe one extra that only produce 9 times out of 10, the team with more players, people that are producing, are going to win. And I think that happened to the Knicks. You just can't turn it off and turn it on. I think that you have to go, this is important. We had to rise to the occasion when needed. And I don't think they did. And that's why I think Indiana's moving on.
Yeah, and salute to Indiana because last year they were that team. And then they started off real slow this year where people just forgot about them and kind of wrote them off because they were like the 11th seed when the season started. And then they worked themselves up to the number four seed. And they really kind of put it all together. They built that chemistry back where it should be. And Siakam is the guy. And it was really funny watching the ceremony of the MVP at the end of the game. And Halliburton thought it was him and Siakam steps up with the trophy. And I was sitting there like, how can you think it was you, Halliburton, when you barely showed up the game before and you kind of had the in and out kind of games where you were hot and then you were not when the Knicks kind of put the defense on you. I remember Thursday night, Pop was texting me saying he doesn't want to go inside. He doesn't want to score. What's wrong with him? You can't win the MVP that way, but Siakam has been the constant guy not only in this series, but in all the series that I watched, throughout the playoffs, he's been the constant. He's been there before with Toronto when they won their championship. And I just thought that he deserved the MVP. Other people were like Halliburton, he hit the shot, blah, blah, blah. But no, if it wasn't for Siakam, there would be no shot for Halliburton to hit because he was keeping them in games when the Knicks were like really pouring it on, as far as I could see.
No, I agree with that 100%. So that's what Indiana did. They're, again, like I said before, they're playing like they had nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was allowing them to move forward because it's like, hey, we can get this done. Nobody expects us to be here. Nobody expects us to win. And I think they might have, in some way, surprised the Knicks. And you get off all of the hoopla and everybody want to think about the greatness. I know Knicks fans desperately wanted to move on, and they were celebrating like hell they had
They
made the
already got
finals,
it. Yep.
which is fine because I mean that's what fans do, and okay with that. But Indiana had nothing to lose, and they played like it.
Yeah. And we talked about the OKC series last week, and you were right. OKC kind of felt like, hey, we can win this, regardless of whether or not Minnesota thinks they can win this or winning that game. It was a gentleman's sweep. But a lot of people are kind of dumping on Ant-Man, and I think that's unfair. And some of it he kind of brought onto himself. But I thought, and I said this when they were playing the Lakers, that if he wanted to be the man, he had to step up every game and hit 30 to 40 points every game. They're not built like that. Their supporting cast is a little bit lackluster, in my opinion. But OKC, they're looking like the favorites. And I can't wait to see this series. I'm not sure how many people are going to tune into this series because there aren't too many star players in Indiana. SGA is the star player with OKC. I could see people wanting to see him. But your thoughts about the finals?
Yeah, I want to real quick jump on that West thing before we go jump to the finals. When I look at Minnesota, I know they talked about Ant-Man not stepping up and not being the guy who scored. And I think I'm gonna say easily, but he could at least contributed 30 points a game if he took that many shots. I think he would. But I think, as you mentioned about the supporting cast, no matter how many points you score individually, you need other people to help you out.
Yeah,
So you had inconsistent play sometimes by Rudy Gobert, even Julius Randle had up and down games,
yeah,
and Jaden McDaniels, who before would show some great oomph versus Golden State was spotty. And OKC was like, dude, we 8 deep, maybe 9. And you can't come off like us like that. So, we talk about how great SGA was, and is, was the MVP, but a lot of times he didn't have to be great.
yeah,
He just had to be good and good enough, and everybody else stepped up. But when you look at the finals, I think you're right. I said early on, I ain't saying I told you so, but OKC is young, they're hungry. They got a lot of great pieces. They made some very intelligent offseason moves with the big center and then the guard play, where they kind of solidified the gaping holes that they needed to secure to be a complete team. And they were able to deal with weather the storms with different teams like that. Where Indiana, on the other hand, again with that we're underdog mentality, they secured some gaps too. So Miles Turner plays. He doesn't feel like he needs to be a franchise center. He can come and do what he's supposed to do.
mm-hmm.
Oh, Obi Toppin, that was with the Knicks. It was the only thing seemed like he was just a reject from the dunk contest, right? He's just some dude you bring off the bench, like I'm about to take you on the time capsule, a la Poncho Wright from Louisville back in the 80s. Anyway, but I'm just
Ocho, right?
yeah,
That's
everybody
that.
Google that anyway. But but when you see that these individuals were stepping up and getting more play for Indiana, and they're putting stuff together. And I mentioned Matthew earlier, having a game where he scored 18 points, where you just didn't know who was going to show up when. The point of it is, at the right time, somebody showed up when they needed play, and you just kind of go a long way with that. So now we have a series in the finals, OKC versus Indiana. As you said, it may not be the most watched series because people wanted it was sexier to have the New York market and somebody else, and but it is what it is. But I think what you will see is solid basketball play, two teams that are hungry because neither one of them have won, right? Indiana, no. We got to go back to what Steve Stepanovich. I'm about to Google you. I tell y'all to Google some things over here. Steve Stepanovich, right? Things like that. And then with Indiana, and then you look at OKC, where you went back to Durant and those guys, and this young group is hungry. I think it's going to be a hell of a series from the standpoint of two teams that are teams coming at one another. We'll see what the Stars do. I want to see what Halliburton does versus the SGA, right? I want to see these matchups. I want to see Miles Turner versus versus perhaps the big fella and doing the big there are big fellas down low. So I want to see how these teams match up because it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But if you were to ask me which way I think it's going to go, I like Indiana's heart. I love it. They proven they don't care. They'll fight, do whatever. But I've been with them since day one. I ain't gonna stop. That
Yeah,
OKC is a train, bro.
you've been saying that for a few years now. So
Yeah,
I'm a witness that you've been telling me that these guys are coming along and they're going to be dangerous. And the big man went down the year we thought they were going to really kind of turn it
Holmgren,
on. But
yeah,
now, yeah,
Holmgren.
Holmgren, and now he's there. So it's no stopping them. And their attitude when they won, they were like, listen, it's not done. This is not done. Glad we're here, but it's not done. And so
Yeah.
they got their heads on straight. I don't know what they're saying in those coaching rooms, but these guys got their head on straight. And even in losses, they kind of look like, okay, this is the
Yeah.
playoffs. This can happen, but we're going to make the adjustments to move on. And I'm glad to see it. So I know I'll be watching it, but I'm not sure how the country is going to be watching because everybody wanted to see New York and Minnesota because
Mhm.
of the backstories behind the two teams and the coaches and the players and the trades and all that other stuff. So maybe we'll see that next year. I don't know. But the Knicks, they need to readjust. They need to fill in those holes. They get big men who can shoot free throws, and they need to. They're even talking about Tibbs. Should he be the coach next year? Because he did not make a lot of adjustments he needed to make, and during the games and between games. And Minnesota, what holes do they fill up? They're even talking about some of the big players like Durant and all these other players joining on to these teams. And I'm like, no, they need to fill the holes. They don't need big star superstar players. They just need to fill the holes on defense, players that are more solid, maybe much more experience in playoff situations. Who knows? Who knows? But we're going to enjoy this one as we move on. But this is a story that I got from. I'm going to give them a shout out. Say What Needs to Be Said podcast, where Deion Sanders was being interviewed, and he was talking about how the Hall of Fame is not what it's all cracked up to be as far as honoring former players, because he said you're going to spend about $250,000 if you want to really have a good time at the Hall of Fame, as far as flying in people that you want to be there, your hotel stay, all this other stuff, parties and stuff like that. The NFL really doesn't do much, and even if you're signing autographs and you get $10 a pop, the NFL wants $5 of that. So when he said that, he mentioned how To really did it the right way. And we all kind of poo-pooed on To. It's like, well, why wouldn't you go to Kenton, to walk across that stage and do the speech? But To was like, I'm not paying all those fees where I can come and party with my own people at the high school, people who I know really got my back. And he was saying To did it right. Despite all the other things that he got, the grief that he got, To did it the right way, where he's probably saved more money, then maybe he didn't have it. I don't know. But I thought, at the time, I thought about us doing the show and how we kind of drug To like, yeah, hey, man, you got to do this. You got to, you're doing a disservice to yourself. But he kind of knew what we didn't know at the time, that the NFL doesn't pay much money to honor you. You're paying to honor yourself pretty much.
No, I get that, and I think that what's now is becoming clearer in a lot of ways is that the NFL is a billionaire boys club. I've said that all along. It is about them, how they make their own money, and sometimes the players or former players in particular are seen as objects where they don't feel beholden to them to really do certain things for them. So, end of the day, the NFL is going to try to make as much money as they can.
Hmm.
So, if you want to talk about the Hall of Fame, Canton is an amazing place. It all is a lot of it's centered around the NFL Hall of Fame, and I had the opportunity to attend a few of the Hall of Fame inductions. It's an amazing time, great weekend, everything like that too. But it is all about the NFL. And I would say that from the player standpoint, is it a shame that they don't spend more money? But are we surprised though? Because when you
I
look,
was surprised, bro. I really was surprised because here, the Hall of Fame is kind of bringing back those old memories for fans of these great players, and you're supposed to be honoring them, and you're really supposed to kind of like this is supposed to be like their extension to the greatness of the NFL, but they're paying. He said the cheapest price is like 250,000. So I can't imagine some of the other players because he said if the NFL teams aren't sponsoring you, you know, then going in with that bus and going in as their player, then you're pretty much on your own, paying your own way as far as hotel rooms, guests that you want to be there, maybe even speakers that you want to speak at the Hall of Fame. All these kind of these costs that we don't really think about. We just watch the ceremony and we cry a little tear or the speeches and all that stuff. I don't know what else they're paying, but Dion was saying that his was like 250 grand. I can't imagine some of the other players who kind of tore their drawers with their teams and didn't go in with the team and they had to fit the bill for themselves, or some of those older players who don't have the 250,000 to sit up there and celebrate and get the hotel rooms and all that other stuff. And Dion made it seem like, hey, you got to get a hotel room in Cleveland. You can't get a hotel room there because they're not going to pay for it. It's like they kind of present like they're honoring these players and honoring their guys, and it's not the same because we mentioned offline about they don't pay people to perform the Super Bowl, but they make money off it. They don't pay a lot of people CTE, those former players, and they like to present themselves as this league that really cares, and they could care less, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I concur with that from the standpoint of it seems like when you pull back the curtain, they don't really care as much as we thought they did or should, right? But I think from that standpoint, again, the Billionaire Boys Club, they do it their way. Like you said, they don't pay for halftime entertainment at the Super Bowl, but yet they do pay for They allow sponsors to pay for certain things, and all of this performance is brought to you by Pepsi or whoever it may be.
And the
And
NFL gets that money, not the
yeah, yeah,
performer.
yeah, they capitalize on it. Like we doing you a favor by letting you perform, right? So you might sell a few more CDs or whatever it may be from that standpoint. So they don't pay. But I think part of it too, though, is like you said, if you can't even get them to provide real solid medical coverage for some of the older guys that maybe played in the 60s or early 70s that really need that help just to get their damn medicines? Do we think that they're going to back up and back you, send you money to party and celebrate you? I would say not. But the other part of it for me is that if you really want to get technical and get this going, uh, we know this and maybe the NFL won't do it because it's not on them. But if I'm a player, they have representatives, they got other people that are out of the loop. This might be a new company, and if y'all take it, y'all need to send me a couple dollars. So I'm start with an LLC where somebody gets into the hall, and you may not have the money to do so. Then maybe you go out and you start to gather sponsors
Yeah,
that would actually pay to make sure that everybody's covered. And then, of course, it's going to be a tax write off for them, right? It's going to be a tax write off so they can do that because now we're helping these players that you love dearly, but maybe not being able to get over to the threshold to the Hall of Fame, help them and their families. We're securing them with monies, hotel stays, and stuff like that too. And also too, when we take in certain things, whatever, we donate some money towards something else, right? So there, you can't tell me with all of these sponsorships out of here, from whoever, pizza, whatever, all these different things, somebody would not donate money to help individuals get to certain places. I mean, hell, they probably got frequent flyer miles. They can just do whatever.
yeah,
So
they can just give those away. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So you could transfer that. So and then too, they could brag about it. Well, such and such was, we helped the families of such and such. He's such a great player, but he did, because of financial difficulties, he wasn't able to get everybody here. But we did that. And then that way it helps the sponsorship of help the sponsor, the people who sponsor the group sponsor it, they get a lot of love from the community. So
yeah.
there's ways to do it.
And I wonder because thank you, Coach Prime, for exposing this because I had no idea. I haven't watched the Hall of Fame in a long time. I watched some of the clips, but I haven't watched it in a long time. because I think I kind of lost my taste for it. But I'm wondering if the NBA do this. I'm wondering if Major League Baseball does the same thing. I'm just wondering if they do this because they make such a big presentation about this that maybe they're not paying some of these guys because maybe they don't feel like they should be in the first place, or maybe even To felt like they were just doing it to him personally and that nobody else was going through this, that they were going to make him pay because he petitioned so long to get in. He had the numbers, but he petitioned so long to get in. Maybe they were like, well, we'll let you in, but you got to take care of the cost of XYZ. And maybe he thought it was just him, and he never announced, he never said anything. And I think you had position, or he should have walked across that stage and he should have showed up and all that stuff. We didn't know all this stuff. I'm thinking, okay, this is To. To's going to do it his way. So if he felt that he wasn't going to get any love from the NFL, even though he's in, hey, I got in. I'm going to go party and celebrate with the people I know that have my back and love me.
No, I agree with that 100%. But I think that from the outside looking in, as I mentioned earlier, is the factor that when the average fan or somebody, even some of the players, saw how T.O. really campaigned because he thought he should have been the first ballot, right? Should have been got in the first time he's eligible. He did not. And they're trying to figure out why. Everybody said he deserved it. Some of the players said yeah. And then when you finally get in, then you go, I'm not going. And if that's all the information that those on the outside looking in have, initially what they gonna think?
Yeah.
You think he's pompous. And clearly now that's not the case. It was a more financial thing. But as you said, people are not going to maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. But when you don't know, we can only go off of you said you wanted it and you don't show up. Now what? But I think too that you mentioned some of the other halls. I'm wondering about that too because now you look at Major League Baseball. I know this specifically. I remember the late Buck O'Neill,
Yeah.
right? Buck O'Neill, Negro League Baseball, came every year to the proceedings, to
He
the
used to give
festivities.
speeches, right?
He gave speeches, but he also sang.
Yeah.
He sang. He had this little thing he was doing, and he was entertaining the people. It was magical, and he had solid numbers. Where if nothing else, he should have been a damn ambassador to the league, to the Hall of Fame. And he would come in every year and just such a smile on his face. And when you go to the Negro Hall of Fame, you really see how good this man was.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you check the numbers, you go, oh shit, that's that type of thing. And he was just so delightful. I got a chance to meet him one time. Just a delightful man, and he loved baseball. Not only did he love baseball, no Negro League baseball. When you check his career out, he was an amazing man. Then he would come every year to the festivities of the Hall of Fame and sing and entertain the people. And not once while he came there after all these years did they think, or you would think,
To induct him.
maybe next year we should let him in. Then he dies. Then you want to honor him? Out of here. You want to let him in. He's been here 22, whatever years it was. I entertain these people. Then it just dawned on you, well, maybe next year while he's alive, let's go ahead and, hey, he doesn't, Mr. O'Neill, we don't expect this, but hey, we think you're worthy. You are baseball. Not only are you a great baseball player, and he was a hell of a manager too. If you Google that, but you also learn that you say, well, hey, you're an ambassador. So you being such an ambassador for baseball, we're going to induct you into the Hall of Fame. And I imagine the man probably would have cried on the spot. But you blew the damn moment. And again, you got to wait for somebody to die. And it's not funny, but the shit is real. You got to wait for somebody to die to acknowledge them. Come on, man.
Baseball is going to do that so many times. It's going to turn people away from the game of baseball because you have another great player that should be in the Hall of Fame, but you have so many personal things against him that you won't put him in the Hall of Fame. And every time I see this man on an interview of how he explains the game, there is no way you should be keeping this man out of the game and out of the Hall of Fame. All right. Barry
Yeah.
Bonds, one of the great minds in baseball, one of the best minds in baseball, and you can tell he's taking stuff from Willie Mays and his own dad. how he views baseball, what made him successful, and you're just keeping him out of the game because of spite, because you don't want him in the game because you don't like him, and you suspect that he used some kind of you know drugs or whatever to stay in baseball. A lot of people were. I'm not saying he did, but a lot of people were. Let that man in the game. Let that man be a part of the game and teach some of these younger players how to play the game. But you're going to do that so many times where people are going to go, you know what? I don't want to be involved. You're going to wait till people die to try to honor them. It's going to turn people off. I am so turned off with this Pete Rose thing. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. It's like I love the game of baseball, but the way baseball, the higher ups handle baseball, Major League Baseball, you're going to just turn off a lot of younger people who are like, you know what? I'm not digging that, and I don't want to be a part of it. Your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think I warned you about Pete Rose a long time ago. I said he will not get in until he dies. And I know that's harsh, but it's a real reality. I watched this thing from the beginning with Bart Giamatti when they were going through all that and everything, and his successor, because he was the mentor of Giamatti. So many people felt like Pete Rose causing stress on his life with this whole situation. But like you said, Barry Bonds thing is one thing, and I mean, you got Roger Clemens, and they try to separate
Fire
Mark McGuire from
to
Mark
Oakland.
McGuire from Barry Bonds. But if you are so concerned about them cheating, there are a lot of people. I remember one year where I'm not gonna say the Soch Stark's name, and he probably won't get in the Hall of Fame, but he hit one year, he had like 18 home runs. He's like 5'5" and so many pounds soaking wet. He came back next year, he had like 42 home runs. So either you juicing the ball or you juicing himself. So that's part of your game back then. Just put an asterisk next to the name.
Yeah.
Just put an asterisk. They took some. We think they took some stuff, but they were great players.
Even some of the great players that they tout as some of the greatest players of all time did something.
Yeah.
They did something. You don't know or you won't show it, but they did something. Everybody did something. Even the great Babe Ruth that they tout. Yes. Yeah.
Babe Ruth.
And
I
I'm
mean,
not saying allegedly either. I'm not saying,
that's sacrilegious. How
yeah,
dare you,
I'm not
Babe
saying
Ruth?
allegedly. They all cheated the game.
Oh
Some of the
heavens!
greatest players cheated the game.
Oh no!
Here
Don't.
are here are some players. I'm gonna turn this real quick because people are calling me a dirty old man. I'm calling myself a dirty old man. I'm watching women's softball, but I'm enjoying the games too. But I have a crush. Uh, Mia Scott from Texas. I have a crush. I ain't supposed to have a crush. I'm too old. I'm old enough to be your dad, your granddaddy actually. But I'll watch you do anything, cook, walk, whatever you need to do. I'll watch you. I don't have to watch you play softball. But I saw them. I have to give it being serious. Texas finally beat Oklahoma in the Women's Softball World Series after losing the last 5 times to them. And I saw a great game with Ole Miss and Oregon. I thought Ole Miss was going to get it. They have a great pitcher. She was pitching her tail off, but they just couldn't get it done. And I know you've been watching some games with UCLA and other. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I saw an amazing game with UCLA, who's won. They've been defending champion, like I think like 4 times before, something like that. And then you had Texas Tech, who's actually made the tournament for the first time. But they have an amazing story with all these players coming in. They brought a brand new coach in, a coach who had coached his little girls when they were like 9 years old and all that stuff, and then went through the ranks. Excuse me, he got up there pretty quick because he had done well with some of these coaches, like in high school, and then he eventually got this job and took over. And he's just kind of no nonsense baseball guy, and they love him because of the way he is. He takes chances. They call him, his nickname is the Riverboat Gambler, right?
Riverboat Ron after
Yeah,
Riverboat
yeah, Riverboat Gambler. So he's all out there. He's all excited, kind of bigger guy out there, you know, talking to the girls and getting them fired up, and they perform. They have an amazing pitcher, and they've done real well. I watched them play UCLA, uh, almost a no hitter, coming back down to the 6th inning. Things start happening where UCLA went took the pitcher deep and went 1-0, and Texas Tech was in the position where they had a young lady on third, and I think they might have a second and third, like one out, and the pitcher for Texas Tech was batting, and they were going through the things and whatnot. And the pitcher, the UCLA pitcher pitched the ball, and the Texas Tech coach gave this sign here, or something like that, and that led to for the young lady on third, no, go. So when the ball came to the catcher nonchalant started throwing it, and before she could throw it out, the third part, the young lady on third base broke for home. She stole home, and
Yeah.
before the pitcher could get it out of her glove,
Wow.
she'd already slid through and slid between the legs. It was a la, oh, it was an ode to Jackie Robinson.
Yep.
Because I saw that, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And she got up, and I was like, man, that's baseball. That's softball, that's baseball, whatever you want to call it. The fact that she stole home, that's old school.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody was, you can see the video, they have it up. Everybody was celebrating. Texas Tech went on to defeat UCLA. And there, I think they were undefeated 2-0 right now at the time. And I think they were getting ready to play or something like that. But they are like the underdogs. They are playing crazy. They got a quirky coach, the riverboat gambler, and they playing some ball, man. They got a lot of young players, and it's almost like he brought all these different players together, like a ragtag team,
Yeah.
and they're very impressive. This whole I'm starting to love women's college softball, especially World Series, because it's intense and it's some very gifted athletes and it's some great baseball, great ball, great
I'm,
softball.
I'm amazed at the speed of the underhand pitching. And I joke about Mia Scott, not really, but she plays third base. Has a great bat and just a wonderful athlete. 5'5", a senior at Texas, and I'm rooting for Texas because of Mia Scott. I'm gonna just lay it out. I'm biased because of Mia Scott because fell in love with how she plays, how intense she is on the field, and how she leads that team. So good luck, ladies. We'll be talking about the men's baseball World Series too, but we wanted to give a shout out to the ladies first. Let's talk about. You have a story about March Madness. I'm gonna let you ask that question and come up with this story because I know we're gonna go back and forth on this. I've been saying
Yeah,
it for years.
yeah. I was reading and I saw where there's been a proposal where I guess the NCAA wants to expand March Madness. The number of teams that can get in right now, we're at 68, right, with the first four and things of that nature. So they want to expand it to 72 or 76 teams. That came out the office of President Charlie Baker, who wants to maybe do this as soon as next season. 72, 76 games, 76 teams. So my question is, what say you? Yes or no?
I say yes, and let's quit playing with this. Let's go to 128. Extend this a little a week. That's how much I like March Madness. Let's quit playing with it. Quit inchworming the games up to 76, this, that, the other. Let's go 128 and then narrow it down to this final 64 and then keep going. But I saw this coming a long time ago because the money's too great. You can open up other venues to have this. So I can see this happening next year. And I can see the teams being seeded instead of a play-in. I don't know how they're going to set it up, but instead of a play-in, just have those teams play and bring them into get the first four seeds their first round buys. And I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. The more the merrier. You got over 400 college teams out there in Division One, almost 400, if not over 400. And so this is just a quarter of the teams that can make it in. Now, do I want an 11 and 10 team? I mean, like a 20 and like 15 team to get in with the record? No. I want teams that maybe could have won their conference, played great all year. There was only one team that can go from that particular conference, and maybe the second or third seed won, or a Cinderella team won, got in, and then it knocked out the top seeded team. I want to see those teams get in, or those conferences that have small conferences that have two or three good teams get a chance to get in. I want to see it. I'm all for it, man. I know you're gonna argue down. I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Hey man, look, the one thing about March Madness for me that makes it special is the factor that it is limited, which means you got to win ball games. Now, granted, there are some issues sometimes where a really good team is on the outside looking in
We saw
and
that a
select.
couple of years ago with Indiana State. Should have
Yeah,
played in. Yeah.
I get that, but 72 or 76. Oh man, look, you got to win games. We love a lot of teams that don't make it. You got to win games. That's the whole point of it. You got to win games. Like we say that we're promoting all some of these smaller teams to get in. Okay, this year it was totally it didn't really matter to me who got in because it was basically chalk, right? For the four number one seeds will walk. They were that strong.
Yeah.
They walked down the door. A couple of years ago, we had it where it was a mixed bag of some of them teams you're talking about that did it. But for the most part, it was chalk. So I'm saying that if you're a smaller team like that, one thing you got to do, and I know it's not fair, it's kind of like college football, the same way. Football is harder. Basketball, you can do this. Get your schedule up. Take on some of them teams, non-conference, that nobody wants to play. So Indiana State, okay, I want to play Indiana, okay. I want to play Marquette, right? I want to play Purdue. That's all in that realm. You might be able to get them games.
I,
So what I'm saying to you is, if you improve the schedule of these teams that think they should have got in, right, and you take on the team, if you're that good, upsets happen all the time early in November, right?
so so say this. I'll give you an example of this. So Big Ten, right? So the Big Ten, you have the top team that wins the Big Ten championship just this season. Say Ohio State wins the season, right? They get beat in the tournament. All right. They still get to go in. So some of these smaller teams, it's not like that for them. And I think it's unfair that, they're the top team. They played a tough schedule and they get beat in the tournament by a team that's maybe the fourth seed or lower, and they don't get to go because the fourth seed or the lower seed that didn't play a tough schedule like them, it was their night or their day that day, and they beat the top team. They got hot and they beat them for whatever reason.
No,
So
I, I,
that's what
I
I'm looking at teams like that saying, okay, even though you didn't win the tournament, you still won the conference. You could still get in instead of saying, well, you didn't play well that day. So no matter whether you won 30, 31 games, you don't get to go. You go to NIT.
no, I get that. Like Indiana State in particular.
Right, right,
But and I don't have a problem with that. I agree with that. Just because you had a bad night and somebody beat you in a tournament, conference tournament, and you the only automatic bid comes through the conference tournament, I get that. But
right.
I'm still saying to you about Indiana State, they schedule uh their games like each year. Like Ohio State is just I think they're gonna do a home and home with Notre Dame in basketball, right?
Okay.
Coming up. But my point of it is, if I'm Indiana State and I know I got a pretty good team, I got a nice coach coming along, I'm looking at Indiana. I'm looking at Purdue. I'm looking at some top notch, or not even top notch, but some pretty good Division ones, right? I'm looking at them going, hey, we got an open date. Can we come play? Y'all got open dates? That way, I think I won't say you totally eliminate it, but you help yourself because let's say you go play Marquette and you got a good Indiana State team. When you play Indiana, they have an off night. You beat them early, and even though you lose in said tournament, you got an opportunity. Bro, look at my resume. Oh yeah, okay, they check, they beat this, they beat that, or let's go to Hawaii, wherever it is, somewhere they take a chance to these tournaments where you know it's going to be some better teams. Then you can start checking off like the year that we didn't have a championship because of whatever, and we're talking about Dayton, University of Dayton. Dayton played Kansas and all that other stuff. So it was a lot of things going on. So my point is, if we know this, and some teams do it and others do not, get your schedule up. face some tough teams. You're probably going to beat them. You might beat them because most of us we're accustomed to fans, and also mostly fans are accustomed to the powerhouses, and they do certain things and whatever. But if I'm a team like I remember Texas A&M, they're supposed to be pretty good. I watched them play Ohio State. Ohio State was supposed to be more than decent and ranking the top upper echelon of the Big Ten. Texas A&M destroyed them. And when you look at the resume, you look back at it now, you go, oh, that's Texas A&M, right?
Yeah.
We look at Taylor, we learn more about that team down the line. But I understand what you're saying. I don't like it. I think that if you keep adding on to it, it drains the quality of the tournament. I know it's about the money. That's what they want to do. I think it should be 68. I'm also biased because I'm from Dayton. You take 68 and leave the damn first four alone. It belongs in Dayton, Ohio. We love basketball where I was born and raised. There is no other group, maybe somewhere in Indiana, but they do. That city does everything in the world to make sure everybody's comfortable. So let's keep it at 68. They tried to move it before, try to move it around, rotating. Don't rotate. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So here's my question. If they decide to expand it to 72 or 76 and keep it in Dayton, Ohio, would that be cool?
No,
Oh,
no.
come on, come on. Come on, bro. Come on. Come on, you would love it. They have extra games in Dayton, Ohio?
I mean, I love that for the city because I think the city, the one thing about Dayton, they don't care. They love
Yeah,
basketball.
right. So if they kept
So
it like, okay, we're gonna keep a few games. This is gonna be the site. Like in the Midwest, Dayton, Ohio, they're gonna have one in the West Coast. They're gonna have one in the East Coast and one in the South. So they keep those venues for those extra games. Would you be opposed?
yes, because I just wanted to be Dayton. That's all I want. First four, Dayton, Ohio. That's all we need. We don't need no extra. This satellite over here, what and Bowling Green, Kentucky. No. And in all seriousness, though, I think it really the numbers. I say that because I really think what makes the March Madness special is you only have so many teams that can make it. It's 68. If you do your best and you go work real hard, you get in. Some teams may not make it. If you don't make it, there's always gonna be debate.
Yeah,
Always debate. But
and
the
I think
beautiful
there's still going to be debate on who gets it in the 72 76.
and there's gonna be debate at 128. So
It's
let's
going
have
to
that
be.
debate.
It's going to be that way.
But guess what?
Here's where I'm biased towards. Let's just go to 128 because when March Madness is over, man, I'm so sad because you miss. I mean, it's like a whirlwind for those 3 weeks. It's like a whirlwind, and no matter whether or not teams are getting blown out or whatever, I just love the excitement of having college basketball just about like Thursday through Sunday. I just love it. I just love it. So if we can keep it going, quit inchworming up to these games and more games. Let's go 128. Let's extend it another week and let's just because I ain't interested in the Masters at this particular point. I don't care about it, and that's what they're advertising during the March Madness. We can have the Masters and we can have March Madness, but this just extend it 1 week, cut it down to 64, to 64 to 32, 16, all the way to the final four, to the final two. I'd be ecstatic. I don't care about the
Right.
blowouts. I just want to see March Madness. That's
The
all.
only, I think the only way that works, and ain't no way in hell they're gonna do this. If you go to 128, like you said, that means guess what? We need to eliminate conference tournaments.
That may be a possibility, but I don't think they'll do that either.
They ain't doing
They,
that because it's too much
I
money.
would rather keep the conference tournaments and
I
then
know you would,
expand it. Yeah, just keep it.
but I'm saying get rid of it, get rid of the conference tournament. But they're not because one, because of the money involved, and two, it eliminates the Cinderella story.
yes, it does. It
So some team might get hot, and you go, man, they was a number 9 seed, and here they end up winning the tournament.
does.
Make it in. It happens. It has happened. So yeah, but no, I'm not for that 128, man.
All
Get
right.
your schedule up, 68, 64. get better, work what you got to do. You got some NIL money now. You got some money. So look, you don't need 128. We got some money. We got a couple other back end boosters that got all that money. So now we're going to see more top notch players going to Santa Clara, right? So they got a bunch of money in Santa Clara. They got a sponsor. They sponsored by the Zone, Pizza Hut, whatever, something. So get your money up, get some players in, and let's make be one of the 168, the other 68s. That's
I
it.
hope we're fortunate enough to be around when it does go to 128 because I think it's coming. I think it's inevitable. It's going to get here because this March Madness has become so big. It's $1 billion. It'll go to trillions at that particular point.
So look, I'm gonna say this to you. I'm gonna get out this one point. Since we was talking about the NFL, you know what I'm gonna say. And like right now, they just send out the little invitations in the
Invitations to the
mail for you to get your Final Four tickets.
yeah.
And so you mean if it's 128, you know how much money they're gonna make? They're gonna
Oh
bring in
yeah,
all that money so people can get a chance at the Final Four, and then they're gonna hold the money, put it in a bank account, and let it sit and wait. Let's make you wait 90, whatever how many days they wait till they make a decision who's gonna get the tickets, and then they make interest off your money if you are lucky enough to be one of the winners.
it's
They
coming.
send you the tickets.
It's
The
coming.
other people, they send your money back, but they've already made the interest. You talk about deceiving. Nobody, people don't know
Billions, billions. Like the Wayans brothers said, more money, more money, more
that.
money.
So no, I don't want the NCAA to make no more money if they're not careful. Like the SEC said, y'all keep messing around. They said mess around and find out.
Yeah,
All right, some other things. So with that being said, you might see some of these conferences walking away from the NCAA. That's a story for another day.
maybe, maybe. Let's go out on this story, man. On our last second shot, Zion Williamson accused of rape, and I'm trying to figure out what's his future in basketball because I don't know if the New Orleans Pelicans have this much patience with this young man, and he's really not delivering what they thought he would be delivering when he was drafted. What are your thoughts about Zion and his allegations of rape?
What's really sad is it's almost like an ongoing theme for a lot of these players. Either they are accused of rape or they are connected with women that are saying that they have babies with them after a small time together, and now they want paid. They want to get paid. So you're asking these athletes, what are you doing? Um, the issue with Zion Williamson is this is supposedly another thing that where even with some of these celebrities that they supposedly had a consensual relationship prior to this, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm tired of you, whatever it may be. Now you're forcing yourself on me, whatever it may be. More toxic than anything. But as far as basketball is concerned in his career, I think Zion Williamson, if this comes to fruition, is in trouble,
Yeah.
particularly with the Pelicans, because now you have a new GM in Joe Dumars. Okay, they say Joe Dumars, former Piston, Hall of Famer. That great is a guy that's from down there. He down from Nolens. He down. That's where he's from. So he
Mm-hmm.
understands the culture, understands how things should work, what he wants to see this franchise into now. And Zion Williamson has been spotty at best in regards to his production, lack of preparation, a lot of different things. And now this is another thing you want to add, another coal you want to add on the fire for him. So I would not be surprised, depending on how this plays out, and he does come with the right attitude, that he will ship him out of there for some picks or something to start brand new. Because when Zion's ready and Zion's healthy, he's amazing. But when he's not, he leaves a lot to be desired.
I guess my question is, who would touch him at this particular point?
Oh, it's a few teams out there.
Yeah,
Portland.
but how long will you have him if these allegations turn out to be true or detrimental to him? So it's like, I used to joke around. No, I wasn't really joking around. I'm like, I want Zion to be a Nick and all that other stuff when he got, drafted and all that stuff, man. what team wants that, And I remember the Giddy case where he was dealing with an underage young lady, and he's with the Bulls right now, and that kind of got you know
Mhm.
pushed under the rug, some so to speak. But with Zion, I don't think he can push this under the rug. And what team would be willing or that desperate to say, you know what, regardless of this, aka Deshaun Watson, we're going to bring you on. And will it be worth it at that particular point? Because as we said earlier, he really hasn't been producing. And is he worth kind of bringing on? And you know that his track record is he's either eating his way out of the league, or he's messing with porn stars, or now you got this allegation. Is it even worth it at this particular point? And maybe, just maybe, this was the final draw for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's a final draw because there's a lot of. It seems like this relationship is messy, and if they are already connected in some type of relationship prior to, it's a lot of he said, she said, and has a lot of stuff has to be proven. I think it will come down to maybe he might have to pay his way out of this, a civil suit or something like that, to make it kind of go away. But I think there's a few teams that would love to have him. Again, if he comes in healthy and ready to play, he can drop you. He can drop on a good night. I watched him when he was healthy against a couple weeks years ago. Went to San Antonio, watched him drop 30 and 16. So he's capable of that when he's ready to play. But you said, are there some teams that will take that risk? I think Portland, a team like Portland would take that risk. I think a team like the Brooklyn Nets would take that risk because you right now you're looking like we really don't have a lot going on. So you do that and nothing else. If he comes to play, then and he does play well, then the other teams miss the boat. But those are two teams that automatically I think will be like, hey, yeah, we got some interest because they are been uh, sinking very fast, and I think they'd be willing to take the. Why not take a shot on him? And truth be told, if he came back right, you can say what you want to, and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm putting this out there, but I bet you if they could find a way to make sure he was gonna be in shape and come to play, your Knicks would be involved in that. They'd be talking. I know you said you want to. You can say what you want to, but you and I both know
Yeah,
if he's
the
ready to
Knicks
play,
have the track record to do stuff like
they
this.
would
This
be
is
interested. If
this is
you
not what
let's
they.
go do the math. Latrell Sprewell,
Yeah,
Charles, oh, we can go down the
they have
line.
a bad track record with that, and hopefully this is not the same Nick kind of way of thinking to grab a player like that. That's not going to really bring you anything but bad news, man. Hopefully this can be resolved with all the parties, with the young lady and with Zion. That's our show. We'll see you next week. Peace.